Hey guys, this is RolloutReviews with the Rollout Reviews, doing another B-Daman Let's Build. This time it is Battle B-Daman Lightning Kahn. And I have a history with this B-Daman. I got him first back in the day when Battle B-Daman was airing, and after playing with it for a little while, it broke. My parents called Hasbro and they got me a replacement, and then that one broke. My parents then helped me solder the broken piece back together, and that lasted for a little while, but soon the solder gave out and it broke again. I gave up for a little while until Battle B-Daman started showing up in dollar stores, and again I got a replacement. That one was broken right out of the box. Then I gave up for a little longer still, before finally a couple years ago giving in and buying another one. That one didn't break, but I had another unrelated freak superglue accident that left it kind of ruined, and I don't want to get into that. But here we are with the 5th or 6th Lightning Kahn, and hopefully this time no disasters occur. Let's build this guy. So yeah, this guy is actually pretty difficult to find, I think, and when he does show up, he's not like super expensive, but he's more expensive than I'd give him credit for, given how easily he breaks. And I have a theory that the reason it's so difficult to find at a decent price compared to other Battle B-Daman is just because of how often it breaks. There just aren't that many in the wild anymore. But, I don't know, here are the stats. This guy has a full power meter, and you can imagine that that was pretty impressive for a youngin' like myself at the time, which is why I was so persistent in trying to get a replacement for this guy, because he was so powerful! And actually, the last time I got a Lightning Kahn, a couple years ago, I don't actually remember it being as powerful as it was when I was younger, so maybe the plastic got even more brittle over time, and just this, what is it called, the power buckle kind of lost its abilities with age? I don't really know, but anyway, there you go. There's a combination with Cobalt Blade for a power type. This is one of the later released. Maybe this is a second run of Lightning Kahn, or maybe Lightning Kahn was just released during the time that they started including this special blaster beat-a-ball, which basically just means it comes with a plastic B-Dama, or marble, instead of the glass ones, I believe, but let's crack it open and find out. Okay, so this guy actually comes with a red battle pin here. And I think this is one of the only Hasbro Battle B-Daman that comes with a red pin. I could be wrong, but I only have one other red pin that came with the last Lightning Kahn that I got. And I have a bunch of Battle B-Daman, a bunch of the first run of Battle B-Daman, not 02, obviously. Yeah, I think this is one of the only ones that comes with a red pin. So inside here we have the sticker sheet and the special blaster beat-a-ball. So let's take a look at that. Here it is. It's got a little Lightning Kahn symbol on it, I guess. I don't know if these symbols were like were Hasbro exclusive, if they designed these symbols themselves, or if it was something from the Takara series. I don't think it was, but again, I could be wrong. Here is the sticker sheet, very 90s, with lightning bolts and stuff all over the place, kind of like the Hasbro version of Torque Berga, Thunder Berga, with the lightning bolts all over the place. Very loud, very colorful, and like I said, very 90s to me. I guess this is Lightning Kahn's little symbol with the eye, with the scratches in it, but oh well. there are those. And again, I don't know how the adhesive is on these, but it could be pretty good if you want to apply those for yourself. Let us take a look at the instructions. Shouldn't be too different from Chrome Zephyr's here. It's got green here instead of the blue highlighted sprues and things. Let's see, it is power type, of course. There are the stats. It's got the Kahn horn and the power buckle, which tightens the barrel for a stronger shot. And see, this is what I was talking about in the Chrome Zephyr Let's Build, about building the visor first and then slotting it into the head, which I definitely do not prefer. It actually only advertises General 1 here, which is a recolor of Proto 1, I believe. And then it advertises DHB, and then of course the stats explanation. So there are those. Battle Beat-em-on are pretty simple to build, especially ones like this that I've built several times before, so we shouldn't have too much of a problem. Just get all of the parts unbagged here, and we'll take a brief look at the sprues. And then I'll cut away once I have all of the pieces cut out of the sprues and trimmed. And finally, we'll build this guy. So, red hold parts and trigger on Lightning Kahn here. Get that out of the way here. Spring, a separate piece. Nothing too fancy with the hold parts here. So there you go, there you have that. Here are a few rubber pieces, actually. On camera, it's kind of showing up a little bit more blue, I think. I don't know how that'll show up on my computer or once I edit this video, but yeah, in the viewfinder of my camera here, it's almost showing up blue, which is definitely not what it is. It's a very deep purple. And then you have the arms and legs of the IBO body. Speaking of which, here are those and that, all of which we are very used to seeing at this point. But here is the sprue that matters. This is all of, the important parts. You have the power buckle here, which is the piece that often breaks, and I'll get into that a little bit more once I have this off the sprue. Here are the visor pieces. I think those. This is part of the visor section here. So is this. Here are the shoulder pads and the foot parts. So yes, there you go. Let's bring the camera down a little bit. Just to get a close-up of the pile of parts so that you can see what we got here before and after. So, like I said, let's jump to that promised cut and come back once all of these pieces are cut off the sprues. I actually never really understood this symbol on Lightning Kahn. Like, I guess it sort of resembles the Shadow Alliance insignia, but only in the way that they're both eyes. So I guess not really. Which does remind me that Marta B is just straight up the Eye of Sauron. Like, legit. There's no two ways around that. They had to have known what they were doing. Anyway, here we are, back with all of the pieces cut out and ready to go. So let's build ourselves a Beat-em-on, starting with the IBO body like usual. I always thought it was weird that Lightning Kahn was always referred to as the brother of Cobalt Blade. I guess he was called Lightning Kaiser in Japan, actually, which seems like a weird name change to me. Like, what was wrong with Kaiser? Just seems weird to me that they change it to something like Kahn. But anyway, as I was saying, I guess Lightning Kahn was like the first ever Zero System Beat-em-on that Armada created. before Cobalt Blade, and then he created Cobalt Blade right afterwards, so I guess that makes them brothers. But, like, after the Shadow Alliance steals, I guess it was called, what was it, like, Cobalt Kahn, I think, or Cobalt Kaiser in the Japanese version, I suppose. Which, in and of itself, is kind of weird. Like, why would you name your B-Daman, you're like, good guy B-Daman, Cobalt Kahn, or Cobalt Kaiser? Like, Kahn and Kaiser just don't sound like good guy names. Naming your B-Daman that is just asking for trouble. But anyway, the Shadow Alliance steals Cobalt Kahn, and then I guess uses it to mass produce the Zero system. But it just seemed weird to me that they still referred to Lightning Kahn and Cobalt Blade as brothers, even after the Shadow Alliance modified Cobalt Kahn so heavily into Lightning Kahn. I don't know. It also just seems weird that since B-Daman aren't really sentient in Battle B-Daman, or aren't explicitly sentient at least, they don't have personalities and things, just calling two objects brothers is kind of weird as well. I don't know. That's also another reason that I wanted to get this guy. I've been so persistent in putting a Lightning Kahn in my collection. And it's because this guy's actually a really important beat-em-on to the story, for reasons I just explained, but also because he's really like the final boss of the first half of Battle Beat-em-on. That world tournament or whatever that the Shadow Alliance is involved with. That's like the midpoint in the series, and that leads up to Lightning Kahn versus Cobalt Blade, or I guess, you know, Cobalt Kahn versus Cobalt Blade, the two brothers fighting against each other, which is kind of epic. And you know what, actually talking about this sort of makes me want to go back and watch Battle Beat-em-on, actually. I think this piece is supposed to go in between these first before I put them together. Does it matter, actually? I actually don't know if it matters, so maybe not, but I'm going to do it anyway. There you go. But yeah, Battle Beat-em-on, I think, is just one of the most fun series. Like, it exists in its own sort of fairy tale world. It's wacky and kooky, and I don't know, I really like it. It's weird, but I really like it. Plus, there's just a layer of nostalgia that definitely helps. Am I putting this on right? I don't think I am. I think this one goes over here, actually. Yeah, it's got these rubber parts on, like, all the horns here, which I guess makes sense for safety. It's a very spiky beat-em-on. I do think this guy looks really cool, despite his design flaws that I'll get into here in a second. These rubber pieces, like, slotting in to plastic ports, sometimes just don't work. It just doesn't work. The rubber pieces just don't want to go into the plastic pieces very well, so you end up like with these gaps here. But oh well, I'll probably sort that out later. Anyway, I did want to try actually putting this on the way the instructions tells me to, because you're supposed to just kind of take this visor piece and plop it on the front, and that always seemed really sketchy to me. I'm not entirely comfortable doing this, but just for science, I wanted to try it out. So I guess you just take this and... I don't know, man. Just feels like things are bending up here that shouldn't be bending. But there you go. I guess if the instructions tell you to do it this way, it should be designed this way. So maybe I'm worrying about nothing, but I mean, it doesn't seem like there's any stress marks or anything, so I don't know. It just seems a little sketchy to me. But anyway, there is Lightning Kahn without the power buckle, before we add the piece de resistance here, which basically makes this guy who he is. Now, like I said, this is sort of the piece that breaks on this guy. This is very thin plastic, and it's kind of where all of the pressure is applied on the hold parts. Like, it applies pressure to give this guy power, but the hold parts, every time you fire it, also push back. And so you got a lot of force kind of pressing on the inside of these thin pieces of plastic. And it's kind of bad news bears. But let's try our best to be very careful here as we put this on. Also, when you slot it into the bottom here, it kind of bends these pieces out a little bit, like this way, which is also kind of scary to me. I'm also just very paranoid because I've already broken this B-Daman several times before, but yeah, I don't know. It just seems kind of poorly designed to me. But anyway, there is Lightning Kahn. Worst case scenario, I did save the power buckle from the last Lightning Kahn I had. So if this one breaks, I've got a backup. Anyway, that'll just about do it for this guy, and honestly, that might do it for Battle B-Daman. Because I've expressed before that I'm not too terribly interested in the 0-2 system. I just think it's kind of boring. Honestly, that might sound like a contradiction to some people, because the 0 system is much more boring than the 0-2 system. And I have a ton of those, so why don't I indulge in 0-2? It's just because I'm not nostalgic for them. The last episode I remember airing on the Disney Channel, on Jetix back in the day, before the series was cancelled, was the episode where Kahn turns out to be evil and destroys Cobalt Blade, which is a pretty depressing point to cancel the show on. But whatever. That's the last episode I remember seeing on TV, and it's possible it might have gone on for a little bit longer than that, but I don't remember that happening. I know the dub continued in Canada and other English-speaking countries, but I was never exposed to the 0-2 system when I was younger. Cobalt Saber shows up in the very next episode, the one after the last one I saw when I was young. So they're just not nostalgic for me. And the reason I have so many Battle B-Daman, the reason I have almost all of the original 0 system B-Daman, is because they're nostalgic to me. Not because they're inherently interesting. So the fact that none of the 0-2 B-Daman are kind of dear to me makes them hard to invest in. I don't know. Maybe at some point in the future I'll get a Cobalt Saber, and maybe that'll start some kindling fire that gets me interested in the rest of the line. But until then, I think this is where I'm gonna stop. So, I will be doing a review on this guy, and maybe a couple more Battle B-Daman related videos at some point in the future. There's still more to look forward to, but until then, that is about it. So, this is IX RolloutIX, signing off.